In this video, we're going to talk about recipe costing. So the first step in doing that is finding an individual ingredient cost. To do that, you take the AP quantity of that ingredient and multiply by the AP cost per unit for that. So here's an example. You need to use 2.5 cups of vegetable oil in a recipe. If your vendor sells a 5-quart bottle of vegetable oil for $9.30, how much will the oil used in this recipe cost? So the first thing we've got to do is get our cups from the recipe into quarts for the that are used in the AP cost. So we just do our usual step to convert cups to quarts, and we find out we've got 0.625 quarts. So then we take our 0.625 quarts and we multiply by the $9.30 per 5 quarts. And notice we set it up so the quarts will cancel. The unit that's left is dollars. So when we multiply 0.625 times 9.30, get an answer, and then divide by 5, we get $1.16 for the 2.5 cups of vegetable oil we're going to use in that recipe. So here's another one that says a recipe uses 10 ounces of spaghetti squash per serving, and you want to make enough for 150 servings. The AP cost of spaghetti squash is $1.25 per pound. What's the AP cost for the spaghetti squash in this recipe? So you might try pausing the video and working this one out yourself before you watch me do it. So the first thing I do is get my total ounces of EP. Then I want to convert that ounces of EP into pounds EP because I'm eventually headed to pounds AP because my AP cost is $1.25 per pound. So I just converted my 1,500 ounces EP into 93.75 pounds EP. Notice we're still doing the thing I've been encouraging you all along to do, which is labeling everything as EP or AP, so because otherwise you can wind up the end of a step like this and forget that you're still in EP and then go ahead with your calculation as if that's an AP number, which it isn't. Okay, so now we're going to use our yield percent formula. We look up the yield percent in the book of yields, apply it to our pounds EP, and get 136.26 pounds AP of spaghetti squash. So now we can use our $1.25 per pound, set up the calculation like this. The pounds AP cancel and we end up with dollars. So we end up with $170.33 for the spaghetti squash we used in this recipe. So now if we want to know the per portion cost of just the spaghetti squash in the recipe, all I do is look at, I've got 150 servings, cost $170.33 for all of the spaghetti squash. So I divide by the 150 portions and find out I've got $1.136 per portion. That's just the cost of the spaghetti squash. So if we're doing the cost proportion for an entire recipe, which is where we're really headed, so first step is we take an EP quantity from the recipe, take each EP quantity from the recipe and make it into AP quantity. So we're using the book of yields information, yield percent, all the stuff we've done before. Then we take our AP quantity once we get it, multiply by AP cost per unit. That gives us our ingredient cost for the individual ingredient. Then I'm going to add all the individual ingredient costs together to get the total recipe cost. And then I'm going to take the total recipe costs and divide by the number of portions to get the cost per portion for the entire recipe.